DOT does not need a warrant for everything, but they also don't have unlimited authority. And if you don't know where that line is, you can accidentally give up rights that you don't know you may actually have as a trucker. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what DOT can legally do to you and your rig without a warrant, what they cannot do in general, what they can do, and where a lot of drivers and people get confused about this. This video's goal is just going to be to help you protect yourself without ever being confrontational and wrong, which is a bad place to be in, and without making anything worse. We're going to be walking through real roadside scenarios and not internet myths. This is one of the most requested videos on this channel, and quite frankly, I completely understand why. Many truckers out there feel like inspections, or DOT inspections should I say, are getting a lot more invasive. And I want to bring the information to you because a lot of information out there online are flat out wrong. So today, let's just slow this down and talk about the facts. My name is Cole, I'm a state DOT cop, and I drop videos every single week to help you as a driver stay squared away, stay in the know, and most of all, keep rolling. Now, this channel will help you understand DOT inspections from the enforcement side and keep you up to date with many things in the trucking and DOT world. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get right into it. So I want to start by saying there is a lot of confusion around the word warrants when it comes to DOT and DOT inspections in general. Truckers hear or learn that word warrant, and they immediately jump to thinking about criminal investigations, or police searches, or amendment violations. But what you may not know is that DOT inspections do not work the same way as a criminal motor vehicle stop may. That's where many things get misunderstood. So DOT inspections are administrative inspections. And what that means is it's a regulatory inspection. And it's done to enforce safety rules, not criminal law. And it's just honestly part of operating in a heavily regulated industry like the trucking industry. So in other words, I'm going to break it down this way. And again, this is legal and this is a fact. If you are choosing to operate in a regulated industry such as trucking, you do agree to routine compliance checks to make sure that safety rules are being followed. No crime needs to be suspected. And keep this in mind, courts have a long time ago recognized limited warrant exceptions for vehicle safety inspections. Now, this does not mean that DOT can do whatever they want. It just means that the rules are completely different. I'm going to give you a quick real life example before we move into talking about DOT authority versus normal traffic police authority. So, quick real life example. As a road trooper, before you make a car stop, you need to have a legitimate reason for that stop, right? So you may say their headlight is broken, they're speeding, they are driving erratically, they're blowing stop signs, you get it, things of that nature before you can effect a stop as a road trooper. Now, as a state DOT cop or DOT inspector sworn, you do not necessarily have to say, well, I'm going to stop this truck, or at this detail, I'm going to inspect this vehicle because the headlight is out. Yes, you can do that, but vehicles in the trucking industry can be stopped and checked for regulatory compliance checks. So to break it down even further, when you're in the trucking industry, a DOT officer, a DOT cop, state cop who's truck certified, they can pull you over to just check your paperwork and to make sure that everything is in compliance without needing like an exact same reason that a road trooper would need to pull over a normal passenger vehicle. I hope this is making sense here. Again, many people do not like this, but I'm just here to break down the facts for you. Now, you might have heard me mention the term sworn and non-sworn. Here in Vermont, I work in a state where I am a sworn police officer. I was a road trooper for a number of years, and now I still work for the state. I still have the same police powers, but now I'm truck certified and have a bunch of other certifications so I would be able to do federal truck inspections. So our state is unique in that we are literally normal cops that focus on truck inspections. We still have all the same powers. We can arrest the same way. We can stop passenger cars. We can do criminal investigations and everything else, but just with truck powers added onto it. Some states, though, have non-sworn DOT inspectors where they don't really have badges or guns or anything like that. They're usually paired up with cops while they complete their DOT inspections. The purpose of DOT inspectors is just going to be safety and compliance. Our authority really comes from FMCSA regulations. There are some state things here and there, but the bulk of it is going to be from FMCSA regulations, not criminal law. Inspectors, for the most part, pay attention to things like driver qualifications, vehicle condition, hours of service, cargo securement, and hazmat if applicable. If DOT treated inspections like criminal searches, the entire safety system would completely collapse. So, big question, what can DOT do without a warrant? DOT can stop a commercial motor vehicle roadside or at a weigh station for a roadside inspection without a warrant. I kind of talked about that earlier, but that is something that we can do. Again, no probable cause is required in that area. Although me personally, if I'm out on patrol and I do see a truck and I do visualize that something is wrong, that's always the best way and the best stops. But we don't always have to visually observe something wrong before inspecting a truck. In fact, There's been times where I've seen a truck where nothing looked to be wrong, but I pulled them over just for a compliance check, and I found that they were way out of compliance, they didn't have med cards, and the company was in general just all messed up. Our selection methods for how we stop commercial motor vehicles can be blitz, it can be observation, it can even be random like I just kind of talked about. Something else that DOT inspectors can do without a warrant is going to be to request documentation. So we can ask you for your license, CDL, med card, logs and or ELD, your shipping papers, your permits, your registration, and so forth. Now I know some of those things may seem very simple, but I've also gotten questions on how come we don't need a warrant to collect some of your personal information. So hopefully that kind of clears that up. Those things I just mentioned are conditions of operating a commercial motor vehicle, and it's not optional. Those are some things that you must turn over to us when we ask for it. DOT inspectors do not need a warrant for exterior and safety checks. So in other words, DOT can inspect visible safety components, inspect tires, lights, brakes, things of that nature, check load securement, and just observe things that are in plain view as well. Nothing I've said so far requires your consent at all because these are things that are all built into the regulations. And one thing that I'm going to throw in there because I know you are going to ask, and I've been asked a million times in the past, can DOT search my sleeper berth? Depends on how deeply, so the answer is yes and no. Let's just break that apart quick. Sleeper and or cab inspections are allowed and are part of the regulations, but containers that are inside of a sleeper or cab is something that a DOT inspector will need a warrant for. Just for a quick example, if I'm doing a level 1 DOT inspection and I happen to get up inside of a sleeper and have a quick look around, make sure everything's in order, that is okay. But if I were to go into someone's sleeper and now start opening containers and backpacks and luggage and things, that is not okay. So again, a DOT inspector can look and check someone's sleeper just for compliance and make sure everything's in order, but they cannot start digging through all of your personal belongings, such as opening bags, your mini fridges, containers, anything else that you may have in there. Glad that's out the way. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is where a lot of drivers get really tripped up, because this is where authority ends and consent begins, so to speak. What DOT cannot do without a warrant or consent. So this is pretty much meaning searches beyond inspection scope. DOT cannot conduct criminal searches without a warrant or without consent. Now, this is important for you as a driver to know. Let's say you were to get in trouble for something that you had in your truck that was in plain sight. Without your consent or without a warrant, that inspector just can't start digging through your pockets and your shirt pockets and things of that nature. So remember that. Like we mentioned before, without a warrant or without consent, DOT inspectors cannot start digging through your luggage and through your bags and duffel bags and all of your containers that's inside of your sleeper. Again, without a warrant or consent. And DOT inspectors cannot go beyond inspection purpose without cause or consent. So just for a quick example to break that last one down, because it does sound a bit ambiguous. If I'm just looking around someone's sleeper to make sure everything's in order, to make sure that they have bedding even there, and all of a sudden for no reason, I just want to start searching further. Yeah, that cannot happen without a warrant or without consent. Because again, that makes no sense, right? Things have to lead up to something. And me looking at someone's sleeper then for no reason being like, oh, I want to look into all their bags and all their personal belongings. Makes no sense. And I'm sure we see eye to eye on that. Here's a key line that I really want you to think about. A lot of DOT authority is really tied to safety. It's not tied to just starting criminal investigations for no reason. Again, in many states such as Vermont, we can, but that is not our primary focus. And there are a lot of things that we will need a search warrant for, such as what I just explained. But all in all, just know that DOT inspectors do not need a search warrant to jump up into your sleeper and have a look around. I know that's something that's in many trucking groups going around. It's been a myth for a very long time. So that clears it up with a straight fact for you. Comment down below if you thought DOT inspectors could not get into your sleeper and look around. Be honest, I know a lot of y'all out there had thought this before. Without a warrant, the DOT inspectors cannot search closed areas of the sleeper and privacy areas of the sleeper. We kind of talked about this before, but I'm going to get a little bit into the nitty-gritty here. So closed bags, sleeper compartments, and locked containers. And that includes things like, so I've seen a pretty cool sleeper that had cabinets. He had like cabinets installed that had locks on them. So things like that, a DOT inspector just can't go up to and unlock it or try to, open it to see what's inside. We cannot do that without a warrant or consent. Consent changes everything, and many drivers give it without realizing what it even fully means. So just make sure you know your stuff on consent and warrants if you're going to be on the road. Again, this is not to be confrontational, but I believe that it's best to be knowledgeable with correct information if you're going to be out there on the road. Something I do want to touch on quick is something called the consent trap. So many times when you are asked a question when it's about searches and things of that nature, and you're saying sure and yes, sure and yeah, keep in mind that that is you giving consent. That's something really important that I want you to remember. And you also should know that consent must be voluntary, so it can't be coerced. You can always decline consent politely, and declining does not equal guilt. So again, you don't need to argue. This is just for you to understand and for you to know, so all the misinformation out there can stop flying around. Now, I do want to jump into some common myths that are very wrong. So flat out, DOT inspectors do not need a warrant to complete a roadside inspection. Again, you're in the trucking industry. It is, fortunately or unfortunately for some people, a very heavily regulated industry. And there is a lot to keep up with. That's why no matter what, I still call it a professional career. Another common myth is that you can just refuse everything. It is a myth. Again, many people don't like hearing it, but just to explain quickly, like we kind of talked about earlier, you are choosing to be in this industry, and part of being in the industry is being checked for compliance and getting DOT inspections. So if you're just refusing inspections left and right, there are legal ramifications. So it's just not smart. I tell people it's not smart at all. If you refuse everything, in most cases, you get shut down altogether. You're put out of service. You start racking up a ton of violations. Some states even have a statute that says that you must listen and abide by lawful commands. So again, if you're not abiding by a lawful command, it brings more trouble onto you. So again, all in all, it's not worth it. I'm not going to go into every single state's rules and everything like that, but I just explained it as clear as possible. It's not a good idea to just refuse being DOT inspected. Knowing your rights and knowing them properly doesn't mean that you need to be hostile or that you need to argue. But those rights that you know, they have to be correct, because then it sets you up for a pretty bad day if you're speaking nonsense. So how can you as a driver protect yourself without making DOT inspections worse or making a good DOT inspection become bad? The number one key thing that I always talk to drivers about is just stay professional. I know inspections can make many people out there nervous, but you can still try your best to just stay professional and respectful. I say that for both parties. If we stay respectful, you stay respectful as well. Just answer all of the required questions. There are some questions that we need to ask that goes into our program, such as like, where are you coming from? Where are you going to? That's all part of an interview process that we need those answers for. This one is kind of funny, but I would just say don't volunteer unnecessary information, right? So again, if I say, where are you coming from? Where are you going to? And you start rattling off, 3 weeks of stories about things you saw on the road, and this happened 3 days ago and 4 days ago, again, is not really a negative, but it can prolong and just drag inspections on. I do like chatting here and there just to kind of ease drivers' nerves and just being normal human being and having interactions. But sometimes the inspection just needs to be completed and we need to move on. So we don't just want to sit there listening to stories for 45 minutes. Another thing you can do to protect yourself from making any DOT inspection worse is just to ask clarifying questions respectfully. If you have a legitimate question, go ahead, ask away. It doesn't have to be in like a sarcastic tone or like a mean tone because you don't agree with something. You can legitimately ask a question, respectful, and try to get your answer. I will tell you this, professionalism protects you way better than confrontation. I always tell people, fight it in court. Don't do it roadside, fight it in court. DOT inspections aren't about power, they're about safety. And I say this all the time when I hear things like, well, no matter what, a DOT inspector is gonna find something. And again, if there's nothing there, there's nothing to find. And if I made up that both of your headlights are somehow out, then all power to you to data queue it. Again, if something's not there, there is nothing to find. Yes, some inspectors are more thorough than others. Some are more strict than others. But at the end of the day, if something's not there, nothing to find. When drivers start having a way better understanding of where authority starts and stops, inspections go way smoother for everybody. If this video helped you, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe button, share it with all other drivers out there who are confused about warrants and DOT inspections and what DOT inspectors can and can't do, so that they don't get wrapped up in all the myths that are floating out there in the trucking world. Until next video, stay safe, keep rolling.